You play at being wolves in a gilded cage, but you have completely forgotten what it feels like to be hunted. Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. Imagine dropping that incredibly intense line into a room full of the most privileged, untouchable elite and just completely shattering their sense of security. Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a fascinating structural breakdown of the Onyx Variable. Today, we're looking at what happens when a familiar, highly curated setting is hit by a profound anomaly. We're going to explore exactly how the author introduces this incredibly disruptive force to completely subvert classic character archetypes. They essentially drop an absolute wild card right into the middle of this world just to sit back and watch the fireworks. Okay, so here's our roadmap for the breakdown. We'll start with the gilded cage, then move into the Onyx disruption, testing the boundaries, calculating the incalculable, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with shattering the illusion. Let's dive into Section 1, the Gilded Cage, where we establish our baseline. To really understand a disruption, we first have to understand the exact environment that's being disrupted, right? So the author sets the scene in a specific classroom at the Ouran Academy. Now, this isn't just your everyday school. It is a literal sanctuary of predictable luxury for the heirs and heiresses of Japan's most staggering fortunes. The silence of the elite here is usually just defined by a low mechanical hum of fluorescent lights. It's a space of extreme privilege and, frankly, superficiality. Think about the sheer visual clash going on here. The established world of the Host Club is this superficial theater, completely saturated with pastel pinks, lemon yellows, and gold leaf. And against all of that, our protagonist is pure, uncompromising starkness, illuminated by absolutely nothing but the glow of a matte black laptop with a carbon fiber frame. It immediately screams to the viewer, this person does not belong here. And honestly, they really don't want to. Moving right along to Section 2. The Onyx Disruption. This is where the anomaly is introduced. So, how exactly does this character announce their presence? Well, it's definitely not with a grand speech or some dramatic entrance. Instead, it's with a relentless, sharp sound that totally buries the room's quiet hum. Clack, clack, clack. It's the steady, unbroken rhythm of aggressive typing. It's a highly deliberate disruption in a room where these people are so accustomed to being the center of gravity. Our protagonist is wearing this custom ombre black variation of the Academy uniform, fading from a starless midnight to ghost gray. But the most striking element of all? The barrier. It's a midnight dark silk blindfold, knotted with surgical precision. They are literally blinding themselves to the pastel theater around them. Instead, they're mapping the room through sound and air pressure, anchoring themselves in this total fortress of sub-bass audio frequencies through their earbuds. They act as a visual black hole in the room, maintaining an expiration carved from absolute permafrost. Now, what's really fascinating here is how the established characters react to this, because they each try to process this massive anomaly through their own highly privileged lenses. Koya, our resident analyst, he sees calculation and wonders if it's some sort of elaborate rejection of female aesthetics. The Hitachiin twins, they see an edgy aesthetic and a predatory challenge. Honey-senpai views the whole thing entirely through a lens of cuteness. Actually, scratch that. Cuteness isn't even strong enough. He straight up calls her a shadow doll. And Tamaki, the prince of the club, he instantly drafts this grand narrative, viewing her as a tragic muse, like some fallen star that he desperately needs to save. The crazy part? None of them actually see her. They only see how she can be twisted to serve their specific narrow worldviews. Which brings us to Section 3, testing the boundaries. This is where we hit the physical confrontation. Okay, so the host club is totally used to everyone playing along with their little games. So what happens when the Hitachiin twins, the school's most notorious tricksters, decide to playfully but very dangerously invade this protagonist's personal space? They basically treat her boundaries as a game designed for their own amusement, literally reaching for that silk blindfold. Let's deconstruct this physical climax step by step, because the author's pacing right here is just incredible. Step 1 is the intrusion. The twins synchronize their reach for the silk. Step 2 is the reflex. Before they can even make contact, the protagonist's hands shoot up, catching both wrists simultaneously in a grip that halts their momentum in a split second. Step 3 is absolutely the most shocking, the snarl. That stoic mask fractures, and she bares her teeth in a silent, entirely animalistic warning shot. And finally, Step 4, the reset. She dismissively shoves them back, the aggressive expression vanishes completely, and she immediately goes right back to her cold, rhythmic typing. It entirely shatters the twins' illusion that this was just some harmless game. And right in the middle of that intense sequence, she delivers this devastating line. You play at being wolves in a gilded cage, but you have completely forgotten what it feels like to be hunted. She says it in this low, gravelly vibration that bypasses their ears and just settles like lead in their chests. It leaves the twins genuinely unsettled. They suddenly realize they weren't just poking at a defensive rose, they had stepped on a variable that possesses actual lethal venom.
Next up, Section 4, calculating the incalculable, or as Koya likes to call it, the Onyx label.
So, how does the analytical mind of the group handle this terrifying display of dominance? Well, Koya Otori, he doesn't panic. He actually retreats to his leather-bound notebook and attempts to intellectualize and control the threat. The absolutely crucial point here is how he tries to commodify this primitive, predatory display. He labels her the Onyx type. He looks at her and sees an unmapped demographic, a blend of the cool and lonely archetypes. To him, her genuine, profound rejection of their world is just a highly marketable angle. He notes that clients are weary of sunshine and crave the sophisticated chill of an eclipse. He even calculates a 20% premium for exclusive silent observation sessions. Do you see what he's doing? He's trying his hardest to force this wild, incredibly dangerous variable into a neat, profitable little box.
And finally, Section 5, shattering the illusion. Time for the final monologue.
Hearing Koya muttering about integrating her into the club's rotation and, telling her to tone down the predatory displays, she has finally had enough. She hits the enter key with his final echoing strike, closes her laptop, and stands up to face them. Turning her blindfolded gaze directly to the center of their circle, she verbally eviscerates them. The data you've collected is fundamentally incomplete, Koya Otori. Your poetry is nothing more than a gilded cage, Suo. She is systematically dismantling their entire reality, pointing out that Koya's precious ledger is really just a beautifully drawn map of a fake world that doesn't actually exist.
She fundamentally rejects their categorization, stating clear as day, I am not a host. I am not a type to be curated for the amusement of bored heiresses. She absolutely refuses to be a decorative rose kept in their little garden. She is making it crystal clear that treating her presence as a specimen for their club's experiments is a massive, massive miscalculation.
Then, leaning in, dropping her voice to a harsh, almost freezing whisper that cuts through any remaining warmth in the room, she delivers this ultimate warning. The Onyx type doesn't just create a passive vacuum in the room. It actively consumes everything it touches, including your precious little theater. And as she turns and walks out, the author describes the dark charcoal mist of her ombre hem sweeping low against the ground, literally like the silent, lingering aftermath of an explosion. Talk about a mic drop moment of epic proportions.
All of this leaves us with one massive, lingering question. What happens to a carefully curated theater when a variable is introduced that actively consumes everything it touches? The author of The Onyx Variable brilliantly shows us that true disruption isn't just about being a little different. It's about exposing the deep fragility of the systems that try to contain you. Thank you so much for joining me today to unpack this incredible narrative structure. Stay curious, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.